Shalom and welcome to Biblical Hebrew Made Easy. Today I'm going to talk about, do you know that the Jews have their own Mother's Day? And today I have John Tierno joining us, and I want to welcome you, John.
Well, thank you, Miriam. It's good to be here.
Thank you. In the United States, we celebrate Mother's Day on May 14th. But did you know that Jews have their own Mother's Day? It is celebrated on the 11th day of the Hebrew month of Cheshvan in October or November. This Jewish Mother's Day commemorates the death of Rachel, Jacob's wife, in Jewish folklore. Rachel became identified with the indwelling presence of the divine and the spiritual mother who accompanied the Jewish people into exile and remained discontent until their return. Rachel was chosen as the quintessential Jewish mother, which brings me to explain, why is Jewishness passed down through the mother? Although the Jewishness is not in our DNA, to Jewish women it is their soul. So the reason it is passed down through the maternal line is because the identity of the soul is more directly shaped by the mother than the father, whose contribution is instantaneous and remote. The father's involvement is after the child's birth. The mother is the one who nourishes the baby for 9 months, then is born from the mother and not the father. So let me read part of an article in Chabad.org written by Yitzhak Ginsburg. One of the most important days in the month of Cheshvan is the 11th, which commemorates the day of passing of our matriarch, Rachel. Rachel was Jacob's most beloved wife and was the principal of his household, and thus the principal of the entire house of Israel. From the first day of the year, the first day of Tishran, the 11th day of Cheshvan, is the 41st day. 41 is the numerical value of the Hebrew word Yem, which means mother. Thus, the 11th of Cheshvan is truly the Jewish Mother's Day. The month of Cheshvan is the time to recommit to our mother's guidance. The figure of our matriarch Rachel is one of the most associated in Kabbalah with the building of the Jewish nation. The inbred character of an individual who walks willingly and naturally in the path of God. There is a lot more that I can say. For instance, Rachel cries in the story in the Bible for her children, and she will not be comforted. It says Rachel constantly mourns over the exile of her children. So Rachel is described as the most beautiful woman in the Torah. Uh, John, can you tell me what the Bible says about Mother's Day?
Well, before we get into that from the biblical standpoint, I found it interesting that um, the Jews in their culture also celebrate Mother's Day. I think what that begins to show, before we talk specifically about the Bible, is that there is a universal recognition of the significance of mothers in any culture, whether it be Western or Eastern, Middle Eastern. Um, Mothers hold a very, very special place in any culture, because it is from the mother that life is actually birthed, and that is universal. So
Hmm.
cultures can change, mores can change, languages can change, geography changes. The birthing of a child doesn't change; it is always through the mother. So that is a universal constant, and it's interesting that in Jewish tradition, they have a different Mother's Day. The significance is they're honoring mothers, whether it be in May or June, is almost academic. The fact that they are singling out mothers for special recognition, I think, is a very, very powerful message. Um, One of the scriptures I think that jumps out at me as it relates to mothers is found in Genesis, the third chapter, the 20th verse, and I'll read it. The man called his wife's name Eve because she was the mother of all the living. And remember, Adam and Eve were the first man and woman placed in the garden by God. And he gave them a command: be fruitful and multiply. And it is through Eve that mankind finds its lineage. If you go back 6,000 years to the garden, it all traces back to Eve. Now, certainly Adam had a part in that, as man has a part in procreation today. But the significance of a woman carrying that child physically for 9.5 months to maturation is extremely significant. The man is incapable of doing that. And that was God's design from the very beginning. And we
Yes, it
see that
was.
in Genesis 3 and 20. Again, the man called his wife's name Eve because she was the mother of all living. So, in the absence of Eve, there is no lineage. Also, I think in Psalm 139, verse 13, for you, and again I'm quoting, for you formed my inward parts. You knitted me together in my mother's womb. Now, there again, God is making a tremendous, tremendous statement here, talking about that God Himself, through the miracle of life, knits together that child in the mother's womb. Now, again, the father has a part in it, but the father cannot make the same claim that's being made here, where God knitted, okay, me together in my mother's womb. Very, very special place that the mother has. And in Psalm 139, it goes on to say, I praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Wonderful are your works. My soul knows it very well. Um, there are other scriptures as well that speak to the uniqueness of the mother. Um, I'm not going to go into them right now. But again, I think what's the overarching truth here that we should not lose sight of is that God ordained the woman to carry life for 9.5 months before it is birthed into this world. That was God's ordination. That was the way
Yes,
God created woman. And when God places his stamp on anything, we need to be very, very mindful of that and reverence it in a very, very special way. Women have a very special place in culture, universally. And again, I don't care what culture you're talking about, it goes back to my original statement. In the absence of women, there is no lineage. Uh, the beginning of Matthew was academic, where they traced a lineage. Okay, it's academic in the absence of a woman, and God ordained it that way. God
yes.
created man and woman, and women were created to be child bearers by God's ordination.
Very well said. Thank you very much. Well, I hope that this was interesting to everyone watching. And I just want to say to all the mothers that have sacrificed their life for their children, I'd like to say Happy Mother's Day to all.
Let me add my best wishes and to what Miriam just said. And in June coming up, we will celebrate Father's Day,
That's
who
right.
have a has a part in creation, but a very very different part based on
Definitely.
God's ordination.
Yes. Thank you.
So again, happy Mother's
And in Hebrew, we say lehitraot, which means goodbye. See you later.
Day. See you later.
And thank you.
Lehi
Thank
Tro.
you, John.
You're
Bye
welcome,
bye.
Miriam. Bye bye now.